Okay, let's begin. Thanks so much for joining us today. Today's presentation is on Canadian ERP and sharing our point of view on how to buy, how to implement, how to integrate, and ultimately how to support your new municipal ERP for Canadian towns, cities, municipalities, all of you on the line. Thank you so much for your interest today, and we're really excited to share some of our insights. My name's Scott Jorgens, guy at the bottom of the list here, and like to introduce Bonnie Agnew and R.K. Richards, both from Sylogist, and jointly the three of us are going to be your hosts today. Bonnie, over to you. Let's get us kicked off.
So why are we here today? We're here to talk about ERP. So the main topics of conversation are how to buy a new municipal ERP, how to implement while mitigating risk, how to integrate with other applications, and how to support your team long-term. We've been working with municipalities across North America, and we've identified these 4 pillars that act as the foundation. And if you succeed in laying this foundation, you'll have a solution that grows with you over time and meets your needs. So it can be a very daunting process. And here you are. Thank you for attending. And I would consider this part of your market research. So here you are, requirements gathering. And we think it's really important for you to see a demo before issuing an RFP. And consider help. Collaborate with other municipalities. You have resources like Municipal World, GFOA or MFOA. And then another important thing to consider is to avoid scope creep. We see a lot of municipalities looking at biting off more than one bite of the elephant at a time, if you will. So we're talking today about ERP core financials, and that can include municipal revenue modules like taxation and utilities, payroll, and then I really want you to consider if it's a solution where you should be integrating versus doing an import. So how do you keep things simple so that you're not overwhelming yourself and your team? Part of that too is to set attainable timelines and to understand your resources. And then finally, consider best of breed to keep your costs down. So when you're looking at advanced HR or work order management, permitting payments, rec scheduling, this might not be a single software solution. So you might need HR to have their own talent management solution. So as you look at that, think about buying, not building, export software with less configuration, and pull in a point solution and focus here in your mid-market. So here in this mid-market with small and mid-sized municipalities, where are you today? You may be sitting at that table with your ERP with a lot of Excel. And as you're undergoing this evolution in automation and complexity and looking at your available budget, you may start pulling in those integrations or connections with HR or work order management, and then having those portals. And then as you continue to evolve on your journey, you may look at your ERP, your HR management, your asset and maintenance work orders as 3 different solutions that are connected with these portals. You're still going to use Excel, and that's great. You're not going to waste those skills that you've been developing for so many years, but there will be so much more automation and technology working in your favor.
That's a great point, Bonnie. And just to add to that, really in the small and mid-sized municipalities and the market in general, we're really looking closer to what we see on the screen of pulling those pieces together and orchestrating a unified system. Up at the higher end, you're getting into the large, expensive, multi-million-dollar implementations, the SAP, the Oracle, the other systems that could be out of the budgetary range for most small and mid-sized municipalities. And this is where, Sylogist really fits in well, the modular approach and allowing clients to really connect and pull the pieces together that makes sense for them. So I believe next is on to RK. Quick introduction to yourself, RK, and then tell us more about ERP implementation best practices.
Yes, thank you, Scott. Hello, everyone. My name is R.K. Richards. I'm a solution architect with Sylogist. I have a background in accounting. I worked in public accounting, and I've also implemented software. I've implemented Microsoft Business Central. I've implemented Microsoft Finance and Operations, and I've implemented the Sylogist product specifically. So Today I'm going to talk to you about some implementation goals and some implementation best practices. And first, let's start with the implementation goals. So the ultimate goal is to successfully deploy a new ERP that creates efficiencies and allows your organization to realize a return on the investment that you made in choosing that new solution. So what do we want this new solution to do? We want it to meet the needs of the business. And as part of setting out and identifying your goals, it's important to think about and document the future state goals of various departments. What is accounting going to look like 1 or 2 years from now? What does the finance function look like? And certainly, what does the operations function look like as well? All of those are working together, and we need an ERP that accommodates everybody's desired outcomes. So what do we want to be doing differently? That's something we need to be thinking about. What are we doing right now that we want to be doing differently in the short term, 1 year from now, and in the long term, 2 years from now? What can we improve through software? And also, I think it's important to consider at this point, what is our big picture technology stack planning across all functions that allows us to potentially choose the right platform and enable us to leverage the full power of that platform to pull in different solutions. Going back to what Bonnie was saying there, as you evolve through this process, it may look differently from 12 months than it does from 24 months, and your solutions are going to grow. You're going to start using them more robustly, and we just want to start by thinking about what we want that to look like. The other really important thing, from a finance and accounting perspective, is what are our financial reporting objectives? Nothing is more important in an ERP implementation than designing your chart of accounts, and it's because flexibility is so paramount in reporting. So we need a flexibly designed chart of accounts that includes optional dimensions, enables dynamic financial reporting, enables audit reporting, regulatory reporting, council reporting. All of these different stakeholders have different financial reporting requirements, and we want to make sure that in doing this new ERP implementation, we can accommodate everybody's needs. So what is our approach going to be with the chart of accounts, and what can we do now to think about that as we lean into this decision and go through this process? And then the last thing I'm going to touch on before we move on to the next slide is integration to other systems. So Scott is going to talk in a little bit about the best practices around integrations. I'm just going to speak for a second maybe about sort of a framework to think about integrations, really to build on what Bonnie was just talking about. So what is the best set of solutions to serve everyone's needs, and what should we consider while going through the ERP planning and design? We need to define what our expectations are around integrations. Do we expect an automated journal entry? Do we expect an import? Do we need some sort of direct transfer of data, a push and a pull of data with another solution? Those are things that really are important to hash out because they impact the implementation timeline, they impact the implementation cost, and they certainly create complexities. So internally, you can discuss the scope of your integrations, and the best practice would be to utilize a method that is easy to maintain, that is easy to adjust or edit. And if a direct API integration is needed, just be prepared to discuss what that data flow would look like so that your vendor can gain a better understanding of the high-level requirements. Next, let's talk about the implementation best practices. So there's quite a few things we could go into here, but I think the most important thing to understand is have a plan and then be flexible and iterate when needed. As you learn more about the software and as your vendor learns more about you, as you're going through and partnering through the implementation process, the configuration of your solution is going to be refined, and in some cases it's going to be iterated. This is natural, and the best implementations are when you and the implementation team can identify when you need to try a few options and figure out the best process for your organization. So that brings us to design and configuration. We need to have a clear vision for how we want to structure the following reporting packages. How do we want our audits to look? How do we want our internal management reports to look? What do we need for council reports? And then any sort of grant or ad hoc analysis, how are we going to do that? Design your chart of accounts with all of those stakeholders in mind. Another very important thing to do from my perspective is when you're going through the design and the configuration, create sample transactions. And I would even advise to just break it down to even a T account level. Do it on paper, do it on Excel, do it on a whiteboard. What is this transaction going to look like inside of our new database, and how will it be coded so that I can achieve my desired financial reporting outcome? The next one would be data migration. What is our strategy for data migration? How much data do we need? In my experience, everybody says and does genuinely want all of the data that they can bring in, but it creates complexities during the implementation. And so I think the first thing to consider is how much reporting are we required to do? Do we need to do reporting for 3 years? Do we need to do reporting for 7 years? Typically, we see 3 years of general ledger history. We see 7 years of tax and utility history. And the most important thing to consider from a data migration perspective in determining what you want to do is, can we access our historical data through some sort of reporting or analytical tool like Power BI? If the answer is yes, and if we plan to use a tool like that, then we can bring in less historical data to the ERP, and we can leverage that reporting tool to access that historical information. Best practices around training. Training is so important, and it's arguably the most important piece of the implementation. The number one best practice is executive sponsorship. Every implementation I've ever been a part of where there's a strong leader that really requires everybody to do the training that is needed to be successful, it goes well. And it requires time allocation, because everybody that's going through the implementation has a day job. They have month-end close. They have projects they need to work on, and there needs to be the appropriate allocation of time and the appropriate allocation of expectations around what their priorities are. User acceptance testing. This is another very important aspect of the implementation, and a best practice here would be to make your staff create 10 to 20 tasks that they need to test in the software. In my experience, it's a common place where implementations slow down because they get to this phase and it's like, okay, so what do you guys do every week, every month, every year? And it kind of takes a little bit of time for people to get that information back to you. So as you're going through the planning stage of the implementation, have your staff start recording their weekly, monthly, daily tasks so that when it comes time to test the software, they have a nice list of things that they should be testing and confirming that they know how to do. The last thing I'm going to touch on here, Scott, is the go live and the post-implementation support. So go live, it's all hands on deck. Plan to dedicate 2 or 3 days where everybody's going to be in the software, everybody's going to be doing new stuff, and everybody's sort of available to help in whatever capacity is required. Your implementation team will probably be available for 4 to 8 hours for multiple days, and they'll be there to assist with any high priority items that come up. But if you just make it a team effort, it's usually a lot more fun that way. And then post-implementation support, know your resources. Can I go to Knowledge Center? Can I go to a help desk? How do I submit tickets? Those are all very important pieces as well.
Great. Thanks, RK. Definitely appreciate your time and your insights. I know you can go on for probably hours on your best practices. So just looking at time, I think we're still looking good on where we are in today's presentation. So on the ERP integration, this is something that both Bonnie and RK talked about. We want to be able to compose a system. We're all singing from the same song sheet. It's that unified data, having that one source of the truth. Obviously, that gives you the financial controls and the better reporting, but also there's opportunities for a variety of automation components. So really, how do we pull off integration? There's open cloud APIs. So the core financials, the web tools, and many of the other top providers all have these cloud APIs, and integration is a lot faster and a lot easier than it was 10 years ago. And so that's really not only making it easier to integrate and less costly, but also really allowing us to achieve that unified approach where we're pulling in different best-of-breed systems, as Bonnie talked about earlier. One thing that I think Arcade is the one who mentioned, you don't always have to be a full, heavy integration. It can be simply as I'm going to copy and paste a journal. So I have my rec center system, maybe, every end of each month, just as part of closing the books, I copy and paste a few journal entries just to recognize those revenues and those expenses into the ERP rather than having to rely on those additional deposits. Custom integrations obviously very much entail, and you want to make sure that you have the right team to pull that off. When we look at the ecosystem for Sylogist, Sylogist is based on Dynamics 365 Business Central. So we have that whole Microsoft ecosystem, the Microsoft CRM, and Sylogist has pieces that are on top of the CRM apps. Power Platform for the custom Power Apps, Power BI, all of this is integrated and really provides that seamless approach. Even into Office 365 and Outlook, every piece really pulls in together when you choose sort of that one common platform and have the flexibility to pull in different best-of-breed partners. It's up in Azure. That security and safety that comes with the Microsoft technology cannot be overlooked. With Sylogist, there's a Canadian-only data center. It's got the redundancy, the high availability, and keeps all of your data in Canada, which is for compliance. But also you have all of that zero trust threat protection that you get with Microsoft, which is an elevated above what used to be enterprise security. Now it's even going up a step further, and it's okay if there is intrusions, what happens? How does it get shut down? How do we keep pieces separate? And leave that for the technical experts, but safe to say trusting in Microsoft, I think, is a safe bet when it comes to security. So ERP support. Obviously, Endeavour's a little bit biased. We are an ERP support partner and implementation for Sylogist and ongoing support. There's sort of three types of support. How can you and your team support yourselves? How can you rely on others for support? So the self-service, there's knowledge bases. The types of questions are really, it's more of a refresher. I don't remember how to quite do this, or I remember in my training session, there was a user guide. Where was that user guide? I can't find it on my desktop. Is there a portal? Can I pull that back down? Was there a recording of my original implementation training that was customized to our processes? And the great thing with Microsoft Teams and sessions such as today is these can be recorded and reviewed by your team for onboarding new employees or just refreshing for your own learnings. You also have a support desk. So reaching out to my implementation partners, such as Endeavour or other support desk type individuals who have that knowledge of the core financials and of the cloud modules. So taxation for business licenses, for your utilities. I had an import fail. I tried to pull in my meter reads for the water mains, and it didn't work. Someone help me. It's not doing what I was expecting. Could be user error, could be system error. You definitely want to make sure that you have those support mechanisms to help you not only get the most out of the system today, but also the ability to leverage and lean on them for what's going to happen for tomorrow. I need new reports. I need new dashboards. We just bought another application. We now want to integrate it. It's almost a maturity model when you look at yourself of different stepping stones. How am I going to be performing on this system in the next 5 years, next 10 years, and longer? The last type is extended user community. So peer groups, your internal user super users, independent consultants, maybe even competitors. Who knows this larger ecosystem? And so you're being part of that Microsoft ecosystem and part of the Sylogist ecosystem. We do have competitors as well. So there's multiple Sylogist implementation partners. And there's a lot of ways that you can be supporting your ERP. So supporting your team, there are those cloud updates that happen automatically behind the scenes. So this is reducing the pressure on your IT group. As I mentioned, all the vendor materials. So Sylogist has a knowledge base, the training videos, user communities, and then Endeavour and others have the partner materials. So what was your original training sessions? If they're done in a hybrid environment, were they recorded? Are they available? And how do we access that support desk? The support desk, do they understand your unique configurations and what's unique to you in your chart of accounts in your system integrations? So lots of opportunities to support your team. You never want to really forget about that. So to pull all these pieces together, we've talked about buying a new ERP, and that was today's topic. I'm going to do a quick recap on some of the things we talked about, and then we're going to get RK to give a little show and tell. So we talked about, the value of a demo. So buy, implement, integrate, support. How to buy. Really, it's back to what Bonnie said. It's understanding your business requirements. There are a lot of modules available and a lot of additional best-of-breed modules that can be integrated in. And how do we want to find that optimal design for what your team needs and what your budget entails? If you're a smaller municipality of less than 10,000 citizens, your budgets are going to be lower than a municipality that is in the 80 to 100,000 citizens. Greater complexity, a larger finance team, a larger operations team, and a larger facilities management type team. So you really do want to be looking into the asset management work orders when you're supporting just that much larger of a municipality. Number two, upgrade paths and migrations. There are things to consider depending on what system you're at. Does the implementation partner understand the old system? Do you pull that information out, map from a training perspective, here's how we used to do it, and here's how we're going to do it into the new system. And understanding some of those components does help to grease the wheels and reduce some of the costs when it comes to implementation and ultimately training your team so you can self-support and have the consultant team be able to support you long-term. The size, capabilities, really laying down your platform for growth. And that was talking about that maturity model. How are we going to pull the different pieces together? And what does go live look like versus year 2, year 3, year 4? Are there other components that we want to pull together? Point number 4 in buying a new municipal ERP in Canada is that trust and credibility. The trust and credibility of the software provider, the trust and credibility of the implementation partner, trust and credibility of their support team. How do we pull all those pieces together and be able to have a smooth implementation and a smooth use? The whole point of changing ERP is to be a bigger, better version of yourself, to automate additional processes. We have a lot of pressures on us. So how can we accomplish more with same or accomplish more even with less through those automations and be able to support our communities? And the 5th point is looking at that procurement process. As Bonnie suggested, there may be RFIs, there may be RFPs, maybe you want a sole source of purchase. Do those meet and greets and see some of that demo. Does it make sense to do a demo during your procurement process? Is that before or after you see pricing? Have you done your research to even understand what the pricing implications are and what kind of budget you should be taking to council? So with that, RK, let me move it over to you. We have one more slide for you, and then we'll share your screen. Actually, 2 slides. So talk to this one, and then I think the next was your demo screen.
Yes, thank you, Scott. So absolutely. SylogistGov is built on Microsoft Dynamics 365 Business Central, one of the most deployed ERPs in the world, and there are lots of benefits that come along with that. The integration with the Microsoft tools, with Outlook, with Teams, with Excel, Power BI. In addition to that, Sylogist has a taxation, utilities, licensing, citizen portal, HR and payroll, fund accounting, unique IP that is built on top of Business Central. So that is how Sylogist has extended Business Central for the municipal market and for all of the organizations that we're speaking to today. So the cloud module, yes. Thanks,
Sorry,
Scott.
I can go back. You're in charge, RK.
Absolutely. Yep, it's in the cloud. It can be accessed from any device, and I'm actually going to show that now here when we demonstrate it, Scott. So thank you very much. And here we're showing you a screenshot of the SylogistGov landing page, and I'm going to show you that here in just a moment. And as Scott has demonstrated here, there's 30,000 plus small and medium-sized businesses globally that are using Microsoft Dynamics Business Central. It's used across many different verticals, but certainly heavily in the government space as well.
Thanks, RK.
All right, I'm going to share my screen, and I'm going to talk you through a few things just to sort of highlight everything that we've touched on so far. And are you seeing my screen clearly, Scott and Bonnie?
Yes,
Thank you.
sir.
Okay, so as you can see here, SylogistGov is built on Dynamics 365 Business Central. This is a web solution, a cloud solution. I can access it from any web-connected device. What we are showing here is the landing page. The landing page will be defined by the user type that has logged in. So in my case, I'm showing you the accountant role here. And this is a very busy page with lots of different options and lots of different portions of the solution that I can get to. I can get the bank accounts and vendors and reports and basically anything that I want because it's a super user type of role. I'm going to click up here. I have a few different tabs open. It's one of the benefits of this being a cloud solution. I can have multiple instances of SylogistGov open at one time. I have another instance open here, and this is a business manager role. So this is more of an executive, somebody that's viewing reports. They're not in there in the weeds doing journal entries, doing bank reconciliations, maybe not, but they have their landing page configured so that we have 4 Power BI reports embedded rather than all of the busy stuff that you were seeing on the previous screen that the accountant needed. And then I'm just going to draw one more distinction here, and I'm going to show you a payroll employee. So this is a very, very narrow job function, and therefore they only need very specific functionality. So we have pared down this role to strip out everything that they should not have access to, that they cannot have access to, as you know, for a financial controls perspective. And you can see it's a very simple screen. So whether we're talking about the executive, the AP clerk, or the controller, these are the different ways that they can view the solution. Okay, so let me just show you a couple of things. One is if I just go into the vendors, you know, every single one of these master record pages is going to look basically the same, whether I'm looking at vendors or customers or fixed assets or anything in between. They all look something like this, where it shows you a list. These are a list of all of my vendors. Every page that I go to here has this little icon where I can open in Excel, edit in Excel, share to Teams, copy link. If I wanted to share this page with Scott and Bonnie, I could share it with Bonnie because we work for the same organization. I couldn't share it with Scott, but you know, if you see there's Bonnie's name, and I could share this with her, and if she was a user that had access to it, it would bring her right to this page.
Really key. They have to have
Additionally,
access.
yes, have to have access. And then there's this little information box that's everywhere, whether I'm looking at a journal entry screen or an account record or a vendor or a customer or a fixed asset. This information box is everywhere. And what I can do with that is I can see information about this particular record. In this case, it's showing me vendor information. I can attach a file. I can attach a file everywhere in the solution. It will live on this vendor record. I can attach a file to a journal entry. I can attach a link or a note. So that's just
really
sort
great
of a
for the embedded analytics. Obviously, we can see your sample data of lots of zeros, but they all they're all real time. And I've also seen this on a mobile device. How does it change around?
Yes, absolutely. So actually, let me show you the mobile device, Scott. So just bear with me one second.
Sorry, I didn't know this was part of your presentation.
No, I've been showing it quite often.
Okay, you're the best. Thank you.
I've been showing it quite often. And so here you can see I've got some apps. I've got all of my Microsoft apps here. I've got Power BI, Business Central. These are all published by Microsoft. They're not published by Sylogist. So they're maintained by the R&D and the funding of Microsoft, which is very, very important. And this is what it looks like, Scott. So this is my SylogistGov instance, and I can scroll through here, and I have access to everything that I would have access to. If I want to look at a bank account, or if I need to approve a transaction while I'm at the doctor's office, if I want to send a receipt into my accounts and payable staff, I can do that. I can see any favorited accounts. I could see favorited vendors, different things there. So it's a great experience as well. And there are certain things that you definitely would find useful in the app. The other app, while I'm here, that I'll touch on real quick is Power BI. So SylogistGov, because it is built on Microsoft Business Central and it's part of the Power Platform, Microsoft Power BI is a solution that we can use as well for our reporting needs. So you can see here that this is my Power BI homepage, and all of the reports that, Bonnie or Scott may have shared with me, anybody in the accounting staff that they may have shared with me, I have access to all these right here. And so I can view these financial reports on the go, and these are great for the executives. These are great for board members, for council members, for anybody that is managing a cost center or a program or a department. If they are in the field and they want to consume their reports in this way, I can do that, and it's a great feature. And we have lots of clients that do utilize the Power BI app in addition to Power BI desktop or in addition to the Business Central app. So I'm going to go
cool.
back to the solutions.
You just put your phone sideways, and then it was a landscape mode.
Absolutely.
That's amazing. I can imagine that for council meetings. You have to answer quick questions.
And so I just showed you the mobile version of Power BI. This is the web version of Power BI. So I just went to powerbi.com, and many of your users may consume in this way as well. So rather than distributing reports, sending out PDFs, sending out Excel documents through email, having to email 50 people at one time, which can be confusing and error prone, you can publish these reports to Power BI. Now they get them on their phone, they go to powerbi.com, they see their recents, they see their favorited, and here we're looking at the same reports that I was just looking at on my phone. And I can drill into these. If you wanted us to tweak the presentation of these in any way, we could do it. It's very, very powerful in terms of how we want to present the data, if we want to be very graphical in nature, and there's really no limit to what we can do. So this is an accounting financial report. Here would be sort of a payroll type of report. This could be whether you're using Sylogist for payroll or whether you're using a third-party solution for payroll. Power BI can connect to those various data sources, and that's one of the reasons it's so powerful.
And so again, you can see in sort of the top right that it's yourself that's logged in, RK. So you've been given the credentials within Microsoft, and there's that single sign-on of it knows who you are. You've been authenticated into Dynamics 365. You've been authenticated into Power BI, and so your role-based access grants you, okay, which reports can you see, which data can you drill down to and drill back to.
Yes, that's a very important note there, Scott, and I'm just going to emphasize it. If in SylogistGov, if my user was restricted to certain accounts or certain departments or anything like that, all of those user access rules flow through into Power BI. So I would not see, if I didn't have access to salaries and benefits data, for example, I would not see it, and it would just be a blank report for me. So the other integration that I wanted to touch on real quick, Scott, is we're integrated with Outlook too. So I could come in here and I could create a purchase invoice right from Outlook. Assuming my vendor emailed this invoice to me, I could come in here, it's directly integrated with Business Central with SylogistGov, and it's looking at the contact of this particular email. John Janchek sent me this email, and it sees that maybe it's associated with this vendor, or maybe it's this vendor. So I can enter an invoice or a sales invoice or a purchase order all right from Outlook without ever having to enter the solution. And then there's one other integration that I just want to point out, Scott. So this use case here, I'm going back into what's called the payment journal. And the payment journal would just be the use case of a Friday afternoon check run. And so let's say that I want to receive approval. I've got 19 checks here lined up for $24,000. So I could export this to Excel. I could share this to Teams and let my boss, the CFO, see this and say, Scott, I'm about to cut $24,000 in checks out of this bank account. FYI, please approve. So those are the ways, some of the ways in which we can start to collaborate and automate some of the AP stuff that occurs within the organization. And it's just the beginning. So, as Scott and Bonnie alluded to earlier, what you're doing in the software on Go Live is going to be different from what you're doing in the software on year 2. And you're just going to build and build and build to create those efficiencies.
Thank you. Can I think just looking at time, I'm going to jump back into the PowerPoint to continue on some of the other parts. What I really liked there as well, just with the simplicity of shared to teams for an approval, is that was an on-demand, semi-manual process, but it was automating a lot of stuff going back and forth. The system can also just kick off automated emails. Hey, approve this, click here, and it goes in on a more automated process. So those are just the extra stepping stones of, do you need to use and put the business logic into the system to say, if the checks are more than 30,000, it must go to this level of approval. Above 100,000 must go to this level of approval, or it can just be, hey, boss, approve this. So you can really see how a smaller municipality or a large municipality can have different levels of rigor. Even the smaller one can behave like a much larger one because now they have the tools to say, okay, I think I can get away with having a 5-person finance team instead of a 6-person finance team because I have these extra accelerators that are helping me do my job. So with that in mind, I did want to touch on the taxation module. So the taxation module from Sylogist is connected into the core financials. This handles all the complexity of working with property taxes, the mill codes, the tax codes, all the zonings, all the pieces back and forth, as well as the billing, sending out the letters, and manages the people, as in the citizens and property owners or renters or whoever is paying on the taxation or on the utility side within that separate portal without bogging down the entire financial system with 60,000 customer records. It stays in here, and then the financial system is pulling out that net information, and you can keep those customers and vendors more almost on a business-to-business or ad hoc basis. Here's the utilities module again, so you get that pop-up because it's in the cloud. You get windows within windows, extra tabs, and look at, okay, what does my water look like? What is pulled in properly from those meter reads? Additional fees, penalties, overlays. Maybe there's sewage charges attached to the water charges. All those get magically calculated together in those utilities and property tax modules. Same with business portal. This is the citizen portal, so it connects into that. The one on the left is the pet licenses, pet licenses, business licenses. There's a lot of licensing within the Sylogist licensing module, and then that can be pushed out to that self-serve for customers. The value of self-serve is not only meeting the demand of your citizens because they got self-serve for the bank and the rest of their other lives, but it also is pushing some of the data entry and some of the responsibility and some of the on-demand that they have into their lap. So now we have less data entry. We have less call center people dealing with individuals because they're talking system to system. They're doing the data entry themselves. They're doing the inquiry themselves. So that self-service is reducing some of the burden on municipal finance staff. So let's go on a little wrap up. Bonnie, do you want to start it off with sort of the about us and reintroduce Sylogist now that we're coming towards the end of today's presentation?
Sure. I feel like we all know each other very well now. You know all about RK and his cell phone habits there. But who is Sylogist? We're a public sector SaaS company. We provide ERP and CRM solutions. We work in fundraising, education administration, payment solutions. And our goal is to support you in your mission. So support our communities, support our government, and to all the things that Scott was just talking about, how can we make that easier for you? How can we reduce your IT burden? How can we reduce the kind of clicks that you have to do this in? How can we help you modernize to a cloud-based solution? And we've been in business for over 30 years. We're publicly traded on the Toronto Stock Exchange, and we have over 2,000 customers globally. So we're really happy to be bringing this webinar to you today and to be talking about this. So back to Scott.
Thanks, Bonnie. Just a little quick about it, Endeavour. So we are a Microsoft partner, been around for 35 years now, and also a Sylogist partner. So you can see how we're pulling in our ERP expertise, Dynamics Nav in the background, and then that moved up to Dynamics 365 Business Central. Sylogist used to be based on Nav, then now is based on Business Central, and both are bringing in that heritage of a number of years of working in core finance and expanding to help out our clients. Unique to Endeavour is we also have a very strong team on Dynamics GP. So there's a number of Canadian municipalities using Dynamics GP in Central Square, and we're providing support for those. And there's an upgrade path to bring them from Dynamics GP in Central Square up into SylogistGov and replacing core finance, utilities, property taxes, and Citizen Portal and all the other components. So Endeavour Support Desk, you have a large team of finance experts as well as application experts to really support you and your needs, both on the application basis as well as just supporting your day-to-day activities of what you need for reporting, what kind of transactions are you trying to accomplish, and pulling in that the magical fund accounting and municipal uniqueness that Sylogist brings in terms of the property taxes and utilities and business licensing. So with that, thank you very much, everyone. At the end of this presentation, we'll open up to a few question and answers. Bonnie, anything from your side?
No, I'm just glad to be here today. Thank you.
Great. So find us online, sylogistgov.com/government solutions. They have a contact us now button and a request a demo button. And obviously, being a little more selfish, contact Endeavour, and we'll be able to help you on the same way, talk about support, talk about implementation, and set up those demos as hopefully part of your pre-RFP, pre-RFI research. Get to know us, get to build some of that trust and credibility, and we can obviously help point you in the right direction, and be aware when we come. When it comes to participating in your procurement process. So everyone, thank you very much. Why don't we go right back to beginning. Today's presentation was on Canadian ERP and our point of view. Thank you very much. I'm going to stop sharing just so we can wave goodbye. Thanks, Bonnie. Thanks, RK. Have a wonderful day, everyone. And we'll talk to you next time.
Thank you.